how's it going? Welcome back to another video. In today's not review, I say not review because I think someone like myself that's been riding for just over 2 years isn't really in a position to review a bike properly. But today's not review is on BMW's S1000 XR. This model has been around for a few years now, but recently BMW have done some updates, and on paper at least it looks pretty special. What appeals to me about this bike straight away before even getting on it is the size of it. You see, I am 6'4", which is 1.93 m, and unfortunately that means I struggle to fit in some sports and supercars, and I struggle to fit on many motorbikes comfortably. For instance, BMW's very own F900R, lovely little bike, very affordable, especially used, but just too small for me. It feels like I'm on a BMX. That's why, or part of the reason why, I love BMW's R1250 GS. Last summer I was really fortunate enough to have one of those, and I did lots of things with it, including taking it down to the wonderful Alps. So if you haven't seen those videos, I suggest you check them out. I'll put links to them in the description below. I've had this bike for the past 5 days and it goes back this afternoon. On the whole, I've had pretty good weather. I had one wet day that I took it out on, not from choice, but because I was out and it was sunny, and then it started to rain really heavily. And you know what? On a lot of these modern motorbikes that have some fairing, providing you keep moving, you don't tend to get too wet. It's only when you slow down or stop that you get absolutely soaked. Before we start talking about this bike, I want to say a big shout out to BMW Motorrad UK for lending me it, and Neil, of course. I want to say a big shout out to RST for sending me these rather lovely pink leathers. I'll tell you why I've got these a little bit later. And RST for sending me out boots and gloves and so many other things. My lovely bell helmet that I've had now for a couple of years, and my beautiful new Arai. We're nearing the end of September, and I'm ashamed to say that I've really not ridden motorbikes much at all this year. At the back end of last year, so October 2023, I was out in Australia. As you might have seen, I did daily vlogs, and whilst I was out there, the guys and girls at BMW Motorrad Australia very kindly threw me the keys to a BMW R1250 RS, which I really loved. I only had it for a day, or maybe it was 2, I can't remember. Doesn't seem to be the most popular bike in the world like the GS is, or even like this is, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And yes, it might have been because I was out in Australia on beautiful roads in a beautiful country in pretty good weather. It seemed to inspire my confidence, and by the end of my day with it, I was scraping the foot pegs on the ground and through corners and getting, I think, an angle, lean angle of about 43%. I think that was the most I saw, which I haven't managed to get on this. The highest I've seen on this is 38 to the right and 37 to the left. I've not really been trying because I'm new, once again, to biking, so my talent is not there, and I don't want to crash this bike or give it back to Neil in more than one piece. Then, right at the start this year, I think it was February or March, I borrowed an R1300 GS off my good friend Andy, who is actually a salesman at BMW Motorrad Vines Guildford. Andy, if you're watching this, thank you very much. I did film a video on that bike, but the weather was pretty bad, being February or March, and I seemed to lose a lot of the sound. And since riding that R1300 GS in March, I actually did a BMW Performance Academy track day at Mallory Park. Again, I can't remember what time of year it was, but I think it was around March or April, judging by, yes, you guessed it, the weather. Unfortunately, the event was almost rained off. I mean, I've never seen such heavy rain, let alone ridden in such heavy rain. But it was a brilliant event nonetheless. I had the one and only Taylor Mackenzie as my instructor, and he was brilliant. I've spoken to him before on socials, and he was just awesome. Catered for all sorts of talent levels, and I was towards the bottom end of that talent level. But regardless of the weather, we had a great time. But again, I just couldn't film it, and I probably got 3 dry to damp laps before the heavens opened. Boy oh boy, does it feel good to be back on a bike, especially a bike like this S1000 XR. It's just awesome. This bike's biggest problem, and I'm sure that's the case with the majority of modern sports bikes, sports touring bikes, is it has way too much performance for the public road, especially here in the UK. It's just ridiculous. It's almost a bit frustrating and annoying. It's similar to driving a supercar around town. Most supercars around town just don't work because they're like a caged animal. They want to get out and play, and it's a bit similar to this. It does everything, but the performance level, especially for amateur me, is just ridiculous. I've never experienced anything like it, even though I did go on that Performance Academy, and at that event we were all throwing the keys to brand new S1000 XRs. I think I got that right. And they've got 200 horsepower, which is just nuts. But in the weather that we had that day, I probably wasn't using half of that even down the straight because there was so much standing water. So this is the first time I've had something close to that in beautiful dry weather on beautiful tarmac, and it's just incredible. Anyway, as we've stopped, let's have a quick walk around this bike and talk about some of the facts and figures, and then we'll get back on the road and I'll actually give you some of my feelings, some of my verdicts, some of my experiences that I've had in the time that I've been riding this wonderful bike. Before we go any further, you can't judge me and my bum bag. I haven't ever worn a bum bag, I don't think, but when you're on a bike like this with very little storage and you need things like house keys, wallet, various other bits and pieces, you need to wear something like a bum bag unless you wear a rucksack, and I can't wear a rucksack because I have a hump on my back. These start at £16,800 here in the UK. I love the way they look personally. They're essentially a sports tourer, so they're a sporty touring bike, and that's exactly what they look like. In terms of the engine, well, as you might have guessed, it is a 1000cc engine. So it's smaller than the 1250 in the GS. But the GS is a 2-cylinder boxer style engine, whereas this is an inline 4-cylinder. So it sounds and revs and behaves completely different. The GS is very torquey and doesn't have a massive amount of power. This has quite a lot of power and a decent amount of torque, but all the way up the top in the rev range. It will rev to 12,000 RPM. The red line is at 12,000, although there it's showing 9.5 because it's been sitting here for 5 minutes now, and as it cools down, I believe that red line moves. And maximum power is right up there. I think it's at 11,000 RPM, and maximum torque is at 9,250 RPM. So basically between there and there you have maximum torque and maximum power, so it's all at the top with this bike. Let's have a quick look at the cockpit area. So we have a TFT display, which as far as I can tell is exactly the same one that's in the R1250 GS and the R1300 GS and a number of other BMW motorbikes on the road, and that's a good thing because it does the job really well. It displays exactly what you want it to display. Above it we have a holder for a BMW Motorrad sat-nav unit, which I don't have with me, but I think this is for the newer version compared to the one that I had on the GS last year, and apparently it's a lot better. But for me, quad lock and Waze, etc., use your phone. It's much better, much more reliable. You can pair the phone up to the bike, and then the bike you can pair to your Cardo system, so you can have it all paired up together without any issues whatsoever. These controls are all exactly the same as they are on the GS and other modern BMWs. We have a little sort of space here that you can literally put a key in, and that is just about it. I mean, you're not getting any modern mobile phones in there, so that's a bit of a pity because it really does lack storage. There is a little bit of storage under the seat here, and you open that via that key slot there, but it's minimal and it's a bit of a faff, so you're probably not going to use it too much. Bars are nice and wide. The actual riding position feels very similar to a GS, so if you're used to the GS, then this is going to feel familiar. You've got a small screen here that is currently up, and we can put that down. Now, having it down gives you basically no fairing or no protection against the wind, and having it up gives you a little bit of protection against the wind. But once again, probably doesn't help that I'm 16 foot tall, because I'm sure if I was a bit shorter, it would give me a lot more protection. It's keyless go, so you have the key in there or in your pocket if you've got pockets, and away you go. We've got various rider modes in here. We have Dynamic Pro, which I've spent the entire time in. We'll talk about that once we get it back on the road. We've got Road and we've got Dynamic. So Road, Dynamic and Dynamic Pro. This one has got heated grips as well, and cruise control. That's for your horn. That is to flash your headlights. There we go. Brembo brakes all round. So we got two big discs on the front, no idea how big they are, and we got one on the back. This is also fitted. Bikers always wave, which I love. I miss that about biking, is the waving. Yes. This has got an Akrapovic or Akrapovic or however you pronounce it, but it's actually comes out of the factory like this as part of a kit or an optional extra. It looks great and it definitely sounds good for a bike that's sold and produced in 2024. Right, let's run through the spec on this particular bike. It's an S1000 XR TE, which is the top spec one. Comes with a lot of standard equipment. That's going to cost you 18,340 quid. I'm not sure if that's on the road. I think it gives you the dynamic package and the touring package. In the dynamic package, you get things like cruise control, gear shift assist pro, dynamic electronic suspension. And in the touring package, you get tyre pressure control, heated grips, hand guards, luggage grid, which is on the back there underneath my RST gloves, keyless ride, center stand, USB socket, preparation for GPS, which is there, daytime running light or riding light, and adaptive headlight. So I believe that all comes standard with the TE. On top of all of that, this bike has got the M package, and that's £3,060. And in the M package, you get the white paint with the blue and red accents. You get the sport windscreen. Don't know what's sporty about it, but you get that. You get the M seat. I don't know if the seat's actually different or if you just get the M badge on the back of the seat, which I'm not that fond of because I don't like M badges, but at least when I'm on it, you can't see it because my big bum is there. Well, actually, my bum bag is there instead. You get the M forged wheels, so that is something I do like. I haven't ridden one without the forged wheels, but as we know, lightweight wheels should, in theory, especially on a motorbike, make it handle a lot better because it's all unsprung mass. You get M GPS lap trigger, you get sports silencer, so the Akrapovic, that is part of the pack. You get the M lightweight battery, so I'm guessing it's a lithium battery somewhere, and the M endurance chain. Now, of course, that's where this differs from the GS, because the GS is shaft driven, so all of the drive essentially is hidden away, whereas on this it's a traditional chain that has got a lot dirtier in the 5 days that I've had it, mostly thanks to that rainy wet day. In total, this bike retails at £21,500, which is a lot of money, but motorbikes are a lot of money. In fact, that R1300 GS that Andy lent me, well, I believe that retailed at about 24 grand, so even more than this. But most people finance bikes like they do with cars, so don't stress too much about that. And as I've found out, it's not the cost of the bike or the monthlies that you have to be concerned about, it's the cost of the insurance. And that's why I don't have a bike at the moment. That's why I don't own one, because I'm not going to spend 4 or 5 grand on insurance for a year, because I can't justify that, because we get days like this for about 3 weeks of the year, and if you're spending that much just on insurance alone, well, I'll let you work out the maths on that. Anyway, I think that is enough walking around. Now we should get on this beautiful bike and take it back out on this road, maybe head in that direction, and talk about what it's actually been like to live with and what it's like as a bike from Amateur Joe wearing a pink RST suit and bum bag. Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, my mic disconnected and therefore had no sound for the rest of this video. But before we get on to talking about what the bike was like dynamically and giving you my conclusion, I just wanted to talk about a little incident that I had between now and a couple of hours ago when we did that walk around video of the static bike. You see, I left the ignition on for about 20 minutes, which was enough to flatten the lightweight lithium battery, and it left me stranded. Thankfully, it was a beautiful day, it was lovely and mild, and it wasn't bad just hanging around. But the BMW Motorrad emergency services took about 2 hours to come out. 60 seconds before they arrived, I'm not even kidding you, a lovely guy pulled up on his motorbike and he had a emergency starter battery pack.
Right, here comes the recovery 2 hours later, and Giles has just stopped on his Ducati Multistrada. He's got a battery pack. Oh my! Oh yeah! Oh my goodness! It's like a phone battery.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh my goodness! I honestly,
So useful.
you couldn't make this up. I've been here for over 2 hours, and he turns up, and the recovery truck just turned up. Oh, thank you so much, Charles.
Anyway, let's get onto the bike. The engine, that 1000cc inline 4, was addictive. It absolutely loved to rev, and as we talked about in the walk around, all of the torque and power is up at the top. Although saying that, I was expecting it to be quite gutless down low, and it really wasn't, at least for me and my novice riding capabilities. It still felt massively fast, below, let's say, 5,000 RPM. So you could ride it relatively efficiently and without revving it really high all the time. But when you did rev it, that's when it felt at its best, and that's when it really took off. I mean, above sort of 7,500, 8,000 RPM, it really started to absolutely fly. For a stock bike, as in something that left the factory as it is, it sounded really good on board and for the flybys. Lots of little crackles and pops on the overrun. I'm sure nothing like a 1000cc motorbike from 10-15 years ago, but still, I thought for something that was built and produced in 2024 and still is built and produced today in 2025, the brakes were brilliant. It certainly slowed down as well as it sped up, which is really important and something I look for in a fast car or on a fast bike, because good brakes inspire confidence, and brakes should be one of the first things you modify if you are tuning your bike or car. So as a package, in terms of the way it went, in terms of the way it slowed down, it was brilliant. The quick shifter was amazing as well. Way smoother than the quick shifter on the R1250 GS, way smoother than the quick shifter that's on my new, and there will be a video coming on that very soon, F900 GS. Just silky smooth on the way up and on the way down. The clutch was lovely and very usable, pulling out of junctions, away from traffic lights, etc. So absolutely no complaints with the running gear on this bike. Now let's talk about its handling. Well, again, for someone like me who is a complete amateur, and really, especially up until this point at the end of 2024, hadn't ridden many bikes, I think it handled really well. It was a great combination of a comfortable riding position, yet a sporty riding position. I really felt like I could throw it around, and I think in the last 6 months or so, I've learned how to use my body positioning a lot better than when I filmed this video, and I'd love to have another go, because I think throwing my body off the bike a bit would make it feel a lot sportier again. So very impressed with the riding dynamics. I think where it fell a little bit short for me was the ride quality itself. A bit like a hot hatch or a sports car, I guess there's always going to be a compromise, and it didn't feel as comfortable as an R1250 GS or an R1250 RS, but you'd expect that. There's got to be a trade-off. But I do wish that when I put it into road, the dynamic suspension just softened off a bit more. And the last thing to talk about is handlebar vibrations. Are they still a thing? It's something that I had read about with the S1000 XR when I was doing my research, and in fact obviously watched videos about as well. A lot of people complaining about the vibration on the handlebars, and although BMW apparently had improved or eliminated it on this very latest updated version, I could definitely still feel a small vibration between, let's say, 70 and 75 miles an hour. I'm sure that would disappear at higher speeds, and it definitely wasn't noticeable, let's say, below 65, 60 miles an hour. I'm sure they could have eliminated that by making sixth gear, let's say, 10-15% longer, and I don't know why they wouldn't have done that. That would also improve fuel efficiency massively. I don't really understand, as a new biker, why they don't, on all motorbikes, just make sixth gear a much longer sort of override gear, because they've got plenty of torque, plenty of power down low, and it would just make the bike far more relaxed on longer runs and far more efficient. Also adding that, yeah, you might get rid of some of that handlebar vibration on this specific model. Now, I really enjoyed my time with this bike. It just about made it to the top of the pile in terms of bikes that I wanted to buy. And in fact, up until very recently, a few weeks ago, because I'm doing this voiceover in April 2025, I had this up there with the F900 GS as my top two bikes that I was looking at buying for myself. I will go into more detail as to why I went for the F900 GS when we get to those videos over the next couple of weeks. But the main reason I didn't go for this bike was that it only really gave me satisfaction and reward when I really started pushing it. And that was quite dangerous on a bike that was so capable and so fast. At slower speeds, it was so capable that it was a bit mundane, whereas the F900 GS is so much fun on the road at normal legal speeds. So that was kind of my conclusion with this bike. I'm sure if I took it down to the Alps or somewhere where I could open the throttle a bit more and have some serious fun, well, yeah, it would be awesome. But for me, it was almost a bit too clinical to be fun all of the time. And as someone who has a bike as a bit of fun, has a bike that I can literally take out when I've got the time and when the weather's right, the S1000 XR didn't quite tick enough boxes. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give us a thumbs up if you did. Leave any comments and questions below. Also, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I'll see you at another video very, very soon. Cheers.
This wasn't working. So, yeah. I don't know how this video is going to turn out because this mic seems to be broken.